What's up? What's good? Welcome to All Day Play Pretend, or welcome back. If you know, you know. I'm Catherine, and this is All Day Play Pretend. Don't know if I already said that or not. We're taking this one step at a time. I'm currently sitting in my closet, or half in my closet. It's not big enough for all of me. The door is open and there is a blanket between the door and my clothing rod for optimal sound quality. So hopefully this is sounding good. Fingers crossed. So let's get into it. All Day Play Pretend, if you know, like I said before, started 2 years ago. Or last year. I'm having a hard time remembering. Basically, one evening, I thought it was a great idea after smoking weed, which I am no longer partaking in anymore, to go on Instagram Live and talk about art. And I think I was talking about like reality TV or something I was watching, and then my friends, a few friends started chiming into the live, and I was having so much fun, was having way too many ideas that my brain could handle, and had this epiphany. Oh, wait, no, it was, right, it was like the third episode, quote unquote, Instagram live that I was doing, and I had this epiphany of like, oh my God, this needs to be a podcast. This would be the best podcast ever. And then from there, I think I started deciding to have on different guests. And mind you, at this time, yes, everything was on Instagram Live. I chose like Fridays at like 11 p.m. at night and had this roster of guests come on. Some friends, some people I did not even know. And like I said, at this time, I would like smoke weed. And honestly, it helped me kind of relax a little and get over the nerves. And I felt like it makes me a better conversationalist to people that I don't really know. But yeah, that's kind of how All Day I Play Pretend started. That's where we were in the beginning. And the name, I wanted to chat about the name. And I don't know exactly when it came into play, if it was immediately or a bit down the line. But I've had this idea. I think it came to me again when I was smoking a little weed and painting. First shout out to my professors from the University of Guelph in my sculpture class, the Fast Worms, Kim and Di. You guys are the absolute best. In university, feel like I barely paid attention. There were a few things that stuck with me from that time, and their classes definitely did. Did I always complete the projects? No, I didn't. Did my best, didn't always complete them. But the lessons that they shared really stuck in my brain of like how to approach art. And I think Guelph was great for this. I felt it was it was more unconventional than your typical like OCAD Toronto, which is very, very technical based. Did I get in there? No. Did I even apply? No. Did I have a portfolio to apply at that time? No. Like the people that did, good on you, respects. I would have loved to, but that I just was not in that headspace. Anyways, back to Kim and Di. There were a few essential lessons that they taught us, and they all kind of boiled down to what I now remember as the idea of tapping into your childhood-like state of mind, tapping into play, tapping into the idea of tabula rasa, which is like you come into this world as a blank slate, and then your experiences and kind of everything that you observe informs you, and how you go about your life and your world. Anyways, this idea of play and being a child, and for me, art when I was younger was my space of play, or one of my spaces of play. I absolutely loved the cut and paste table in kindergarten. I thought it was so cool that, because we had this box of just like recycled materials. You know, it was cardboard boxes and toilet paper rolls and scrap paper and glue and ribbon. And I fucking loved gluing random shit together and being like, this is a rocket ship. This is a camera. There was just a lot of joy there. And my mom, bless her heart, took photos of me when I was like 6 years old posing with all of my sculptures. And of course, we threw them away because they weren't, anything crazy or special. But that was definitely like core memory locked in there. Side note, another thing that I like to do, play, was playing in the dirt. I love just getting my hands dirty, collecting worms. I used to put them in this little bucket, this little plastic, I think it was a plastic pink bucket, and they would dry up. But I just really liked playing in the dirt and collecting worms. I like to play. I like to have fun. And fast forward to university, this idea of play was kind of brought back into my world, into my understanding. And I didn't really, go full on hard being an artist right in university. I did not believe it until 2020, probably. And I'd made so much art in my life, and I didn't really believe that I was an artist. And I didn't really, look at the lessons they had taught me and take the value that I had from them, I think, until later. Although, yes, like I did try in university. I think I was just a lot more insecure and unsure and like did not know what the fuck I was doing, or just like my mental health in that time period of my life, not great at all. Anyways, so coming back to like this idea of play and all day play pretend, I just really like this concept of, as an artist, as a creative, as creating anything, you are in or should be in the state of play, in this state of kind of like having a blank mind, and it's just freedom. It should be enjoyable. It shouldn't be difficult or super hard. I think our most beautiful creative moments come in this state of play. And when I was finally able to call myself an artist and realize that it's not like a certain level of art that I have to make, or it's not anybody else's approval that I need to meet. It's my own approval and my own opinion, and calling myself an artist and taking on that label and identifying with was really, one, so empowering. But two, it like unlocked this freedom in me to be able to create and to be like, wait, whoa, I've been an artist this whole time, but only realizing it and taking on and being super confident in it, did I feel like I was one. And then bringing it back to play, I felt very empowered, and I've always had this idea of like, if you're an artist, it's very fun, it's very playful. And that's where I was able to kind of create this idea of like all day I play pretend, is when I'm an artist, or when you're a creative, or when you're in creating mode, just like in all of life, period, when you are creating, when you are living, we are in this state of play. Like, it should be fun. Life should be fun. Creating is fun. It is playful. That is where, I think we thrive as humans. And what's like so interesting is like this space in our brains where we get to play. This place in our lives when we can share it with ourselves and with others. Play is just so freaking important, and I'm hearing it in my current zeitgeist all the time. And anyways, that's where this idea of all day I play pretend came from, because I wanted to like really hone in on that idea of playing and playfulness and just having fun, and seeing that as this whole scope of like, yeah, it's possible. Like, you don't have to be a starving artist to like live this life, you can too. You can do it. You are one. Like, I truly believe we are all artists. We are all creatives in this life. Every human, every being, everything that has life in it is creativity. Like, as you come into being, every moment is a new creation. And therefore we are also all playful, and I think it's essential to life to not get too fucking serious, which I feel like I have in many times in my life. And coming back to this idea of play and joy and creation is where I feel most alive. And that's where this kind of whole idea started from, and wanting to talk to other people, to talk about play and to talk about fun and creativity, and just pick people's brains and like talk about this shared joy of playing all day, creating all day, just living our childhood dreams out. And I guess the other side to this, so the original idea at some point in time when this was coming into fruition, was also the idea of business. So, bit of a backstory here. Track back. Let's just talk about school. So, yeah, in school, like after I graduated high school, I went to school for originally studio art. Then I didn't realize that, that's not all that I wanted to do. I needed to learn more about the world, so I switched into sociology. And then after university, and then I got a minor in studio art. After university, I fucked off and traveled on and off for like 4 years, and I still kind of had this dream. I was like, I want to be an artist. I want to do this. But I had many qualms, and I still do, in what I learn about the world and the more I'd see, and just like this complex thing of, if I'm gonna be an artist, then there's like this aspect of consumerism that I think taps into it, and do I want to be a part of that world, especially since we are in this space of overconsumption. Like, we just consume so much. Even this podcast is contributing to the consumer culture that we have. Anyways, so yeah, after traveling, came back home 2020, and I decided to go to study business, and I studied marketing. And of course, COVID hit during this time, but yeah, so I studied marketing because I was like, if I'm going to be an artist, I need to know business, because you basically are running your own business. You're an entrepreneur. And yeah, they go hand in hand. There's no ifs, ands, or buts. The minute you are exchanging something for money, you are in business. That's my perspective. Thank you, Father, for sharing that with me. So yeah, with this podcast, I was like, okay, I want to talk about business as well. I want to talk about maybe the monetization of this, or the decision not to. Like, just kind of understanding how these worlds cross, and how to make a living off your creative ventures, and how does it taint it? How can it make it better? How can it thrive? And how they really coexist together? And what's the business side of things that we need to look at and need to do? Is it, we hire other people to do it, or are we doing it all ourselves? And even when like the fun can come in with the business side, and yeah, how it can be fun as well, even though I think many people do align with this perspective of, I've always had this idea of like sales. Like, I think of Matilda. Oh, by the way, favorite movie. Loved Matilda watching up. Would literally watch it on repeat, and my mom had to hide the VHS from me. But her father, what was his name? Something Wormwood. And he was like this sleazy sales guy. And that was kind of always my idea. I was like, oh, I don't want to be that, I wanted to be Matilda. I wanted to be a fun and create and just be free and be myself. I didn't want to be her sleazy father. I didn't want to be that sleazy sales guy. But learning that, if you're going to pursue creative ventures, like, that is going to be a part of discussion. So maybe that's, I don't know, is that the dark side? Is that like the negative? Depending on how you look at it, like there's the contrasting side, because it's not all business, ain't all fun and games. But it's part of the game. That's the thing. It's all part of the game of play, the game of life. So yeah, that's kind of where all the I play pretend came into being. And yeah, I recorded, I don't know how many episodes. I think it was, I want to say like 6 or 7 with a bunch of different people. Most of them I have lost. I don't know where they went or how I lost them, but they gone, okay? Some of them I did download from Instagram and TikTok, and I have them on my computer, but least to say they are embarrassing. I do not want to share those with the world. Especially, I don't know. I was not me. I was me, but like, if you know me and you have ever seen me smoke weed or use other substances, which I no longer do, haven't drank in over 6 years, and weed, it's come and gone, but now it's been almost, I think, a year almost, and I didn't do that for a number of years when I first quit drinking as well. But that is another story, okay? I am currently looking at my iPhone Notes, which is my favorite app to use besides doom scrolling on social media. Just looking at what did I want to talk about today? Oh, yes. I wanted to touch on this as well. So COVID, this is just a current perspective and take I have on COVID and just like the state of our world. It seems like COVID, at least living here in Canada, because so many things were locked down, a lot of people lost their jobs. There was time to be home and like rest and just stop what we were doing and take a step back and kind of reflect on the world around us. And maybe not everybody's in this headspace, but this is where my headspace is. But I felt like we kind of started to see and poke holes in the systems, and even with just supply chain issues and how that affected so many different industries, seeing that, okay, like there, things aren't completely perfect. And not to say that they ever have been, but it kind of like we were able to see and be like, okay, these systems aren't working. This linear economy, there's something off here. And at the same time, I also think it gave this space for a lot of people to be super creative. Like that's when I actually decided to start painting again and to come back to my art after studying business, after traveling for a while and like doing photography, trying to, having many different attempts at things. It was when I was like, okay, I'm going to paint again. And I hadn't painted in years, and I hadn't really painted freely in play at my own will. But yeah, it started this like new perspective, and TikTok launched, and then suddenly people are getting famous so quickly, or internet famous or social media famous, or anyways, so just like in pop culture world, seeing this new turn of leaf in these industries and the like people sharing and expressing their creativity, which I just find so interesting and fascinating. And I really think, yeah, it has been able to birth this new renaissance of creativity in our current world. Yeah, what else did I want to talk about? Relationship between art and business, check. Yeah, okay, that's a lot of it. So I know, and I kind of wanted to talk about myself, the past, the present, the future. Maybe I'll chat a bit more about that. So yeah, where am I now? I did take a year off of working to try and pursue art full time. And my experience with that was that relying on it solely for money when it wasn't already flowing tainted it. It tainted my experience. It was making me create things that I didn't really want to create, but it was also amazing time for learning and experimentation and for just living in conviction of I am an artist, I am a creative, and this is the path I am on. Also, living in the state of growth mindset where every challenge, every failure is a learning opportunity. Like failing forward, I'm not as afraid of failure as I used to be, and seeing those as learning opportunities and chances, and it's a discovering to figure out exactly the path and the creative ventures that I want to be on. So I currently am definitely working on many different creative ventures. I'm feeling more into my voice, feeling more like I'm finding my creative voice in the world and the space that I want to be in. And I don't know exactly where it's going to be, but I know what I like creating and I know what I like doing and where I want to go. So currently I am trying to move more towards like a sustainable art practice. And maybe this is effects from Enactus, which was a club that I was a part of in my postgraduate program in marketing, where basically Enactus helps launches business or supports business that are aiming to reach the 12 UN sustainability goals. And the business that I work for now, called A Greener Future, is also a nonprofit working towards, education about the environment and to change policy around different aspects around pollution, etc. And it has given me a lot more reflection on my own art practice and knowing that, acrylic paint is basically liquid plastic, and buying all these new materials is not something I need. And to be fair, I am also such a big advocate of reusing materials, and I do a lot of that. I am the number one advocate for shopping on the side of the road. If I see something on the side of the road, I will pick it up and put it in my car. Okay? Also, garage sales, love them. Facebook Marketplace, love it. Thrift stores, love it. Value Village, you are my favorite. Actually, was my favorite. Now I just ain't about those high prices. We have some problems there, but I like secondhand shit, and I want to use secondhand shit instead of buying a bunch of new shit to make new shit when we don't need no more new shit. Okay? We have a bunch of new shit already. We need to tone it the fuck down. And that's kind of where my sociology background and like stuff I learned in sociology class of just the effects and certain systems that have on our environment and how harmful and sad it is the way that we treat animals and treat humans and treat our natural resources and treat the natural world. And I just want to create, but I also don't want to be dumping, and shame on me. But no shame on, it is just what it is of all the times that I've washed my acrylic paint down the sink and really not ever had to think about it. But that ain't a good idea. So now what do? I have a bucket that I pour my acrylic paint water into it, and then the water evaporates, and now there's a film of acrylic stuff on the bottom of the pan. Anyways, so that's kind of where I'm at now. If you've seen my stuff, I do a lot of squiggly things. I like frogs. I like soft sculpture and abstract art. But then I also do things like my plush profanity or my fuck pillows, which a lot of people have seen, literally just pillows that spell the word fuck. And I'm kind of finding my understanding of the world of seeing how the internal struggle of our mental worlds, and I guess so through my own experience and struggling with substance abuse and mental health, and seeing that reflected in the outside world in our systems, and kind of how, if we are unhealthy as in ourselves, like as a population, as a collective, in our minds, like that is also reflected into the outside world. And it's kind of like this duality that exists, and this symmetry between worlds, but also looking at like the absurdities that we live with, and how we just continue on living, which is so beautiful but also odd. But yeah, I'm sort of finding my own voice and where I want to be, and I'm not in any rush. Like for a while, I felt like I had to do it now and I had to make it, but I'm now more of the mindset of, do it slowly. I'm creating for me. I'm creating for myself, and that is where I think this like true joy in creation comes from. And not always creating for yourself. Maybe you're creating for somebody else or with somebody else, but staying true to yourself in that creation process, and not doing something because somebody else told you to or you think you should, but rather because it's true to you and what you want and what you believe in. And that's where I think play and creativity and our strengths and our joy come in from creating. Let's see. How long have I been talking? Let me guess. I'm going to guess 35 minutes. Oh my god, only 26. Wow. I felt like I was being annoying and that I should stop talking. But you know what? I'm not. It is 22 o'clock at night. That's the only time it can be 22 o'clock, 10 p.m. I want to talk a bit more about my art practice, maybe. And maybe I'll talk about the business side. So, I have a love and hate relationship with social media. I can watch it for hours. I mean, hours. I can get lost in there. And definitely could create more. But I also find creating on social media can get kind of exhausting. And it is creative and I do have fun doing it, but it's not the art that I want to be making. Although I also think it is a form of art. It is a form of creation. It can be a medium. And I'm kind of looking at, what are the different ways that creatives or myself as a creative can make money from art, can influence the world around me. And one of those ways can be through, selling your art privately by yourself through your online website, and the democratization of art and just like our world of how anybody can be an artist, anybody can be a creative. Like we have so much access to easily, like this is where I think the whole consumer part comes into it. Like anybody can like make a brand. If you wanted tomorrow to be like, I want to make a new brand, you could find production manufacturers, whatever, and create a clothing line or a toy line or a new product. But the thing is, like everything, I believe everything's been done before. It just hasn't been done by you. But I also didn't want to, which is kind of where I fell in when I was just making money off art, of like falling into this consumerist mindset of like doing prints and stickers. And I'm like, no. That's not where I want to be. I want to be in the more one-of-one, weird as fuck art space. I like that. I like that weird shit. And yeah, so one way I could do that is through social media. So I think one of the best ways right now is having, maybe a TikTok platform where you're reaching a lot of people, driving that traffic to then your Instagram or maybe to a YouTube. YouTube definitely good. If we looked at two of my favorite marketing creators are Coco Moco and Nikki. I forget his last name. Nikki. Anyways, they have a podcast called Share Your Screen. It's really good, really interesting. Coco Moco also has another one called, she has another one. Can't remember the name. But yeah, very interesting podcast. And they do looking at like social media and marketing and pop culture from, I think, a really unique lens, and very meta, such a meta podcast. I love it. And yeah, they talk about, they did like this review recently. I think they were looking at the Forbes list and looking at all the creators on there and kind of looking at them and analyzing them. Okay, like who's on TikTok, who's on YouTube. I think there was one streamer on there, but they were kind of just talking about YouTube and how it's a longer, sustainable platform where, you know, if somebody subscribes to you and then you're getting, they're coming back for a video every week. Whereas if you're on TikTok or something, you may not always come up on somebody's For You page or in their following. Like, you could have maybe a few, but like, you're not going to be a constant. You know, there's definitely people that you'll follow on there and then you never see again. You forget about them. Whereas YouTube, this longer form content, you can keep your followers around a lot longer. So yeah, social media is one way. Then maybe even tapping into like Google Ads, and that's another revenue that you can go down. Revenue, not the right one. PR, getting yourself a PR person. Going into the gallery space, that's a whole nother world. Applying for grants and kind of doing more like public art and doing art that is kind of making an impact. And that's kind of where I'm trying to see, you know, where it is that I'm going to fall into. And I think it's going to be in maybe the latter. Maybe it's going to be a connection of all of them. But yeah, I'm not in a rush, and I'm feeling like the as I take my time, and like this podcast is like another thing, another part of my business model of like how I want to be as a creative. I guess another side note to this podcast is creating this podcast is like an excuse for me to talk to people that I otherwise may not have talked to or got to pick the brains of and gotten to get like a little bit intimate with, because I love to have intimate conversations and I love to be a little nosy and to pick people's brains and to understand things. But I think in a lot of spaces, like, it's not always going to be a place where you can have a long conversation or get really into deep depths with people unless like you have a space of something that's serving. So this podcast, I hope, not only serves me and my curiosity, but shares this curiosity with who's ever listening. And also, I hope that my questions and the deep dives and the people that I talk to and interview also get something out of this. And like, there's kind of this creative tornado, or like this brainstorming, or just this space of learning and understanding more. And I think sometimes through conversation, I'm sure other people have experienced this too, of like you're talking and then this ideas come to you that you're like, oh my gosh, I never thought of it that way. And it opens up this other portal in your brain and your mind. And you're like, holy fuck, that's brilliant. You're so smart. And then you realize that you're also smart, and that person's smart, and that we're all just unique and creative and cool as fuck people. And that's, yeah, I just want to talk to cool as fuck people. I think that's like the basis of this. Talk to cool people, have fun, play, enjoy. Yeah, that's what we're here to do. Yeah, okay, so that's all like the notes I have. I'm sure I'm gonna finish this. Like, I know me. I will finish this and I'm like, oh, I should have talked about that. Or I should have done this, but I didn't. Yeah, so we're going to end things, round it up here. And I am dreading the next part of the editing. You know what, I might honestly not edit it. I might just post this, or, you know, set it up to post. I was doing a little research before of like listening to podcast intros and outros, and like some podcasts now, they do, like, you know, some podcasts have the intro, little tune at the beginning, a little intro. It's the same thing every time. Other podcasts literally just start talking. Like, they just talk and they're like, you're walking in like mid conversation, or like you know exactly what you're being a part of. And maybe I will get more complex down the line, but I mean, even with this, like, there's 2 episodes that I'm going to release that I do have recorded on my Zoom podcast recorder, that I also recorded video. Because my idea was like, I want to do a video podcast, but honestly, that was just way too much editing, and like, I'm not there. I don't want to do it. I don't care about that shit. I also don't want to listen to myself for like an hour. Whereas now I can just like post it. And then, yeah, I don't have to do all the editing. And it's just more raw and real. And like, we ain't here trying to be a poser or any of that shit. Although that, I used to be so terrified of being a poser. Wow. High school. Ugh. So glad we're not there anymore. Okay, I think this is the end of episode 1. Thank you for listening. If you got this far, I appreciate you. Another little side note. One of my favorite podcasts, Ologies, if you haven't listened to it, literally go listen right now. Like, best podcast ever. Allie Ward is the host, and I think the way the podcast is edited, just how curious she is in the people she's interviewing. At the end of every episode, she always like shares a little secret, and also just throughout the episode, there's always like little pop culture references or sound bites, and I love that. Will I be doing that currently? Probably not, but it's the end of the podcast, so I feel like maybe I should share a secret with you. And I currently can't think of one. Maybe it's that one of my favorite things to snack on is natural peanut butter on pickles. I think it's just really good. Don't hate it or don't knock it till you try it. Thanks for listening, and hopefully you will hear from me soon, and we will have a guest on the podcast. TTYL. Talk to you later. Podcast out.